Aloha, beautifuls. Welcome to the Women Unleashed Online Retreat. My name is Amber Quile Malay-Benici. I am your retreat host, and today we're doing some creativity. I'm very excited. So for today's session, make sure you have your journal. You have any sort of coloring goodies. So you can have crayons, markers, paints, you name it. What's cool, we're playing with it today, so we're gonna have a great time, and I'm excited to dive in. But before I introduce you to our session guide, before we get in it, let's get present. Okay, so just first, if you will with me, close your eyes for a moment and notice if there's anything that's been going on from before this session, any lingering energy you're carrying around with you. Let's just inhale in. Exhale and release. Next, noticing if there's anything in the future you're worried about or thinking about that's pulling you from this moment. To inhale in. Exhale and release. And third and final breath is to smell this moment together. Inhaling in. Exhale and release. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and open your eyes, and I can introduce you to our session guide today. Oh, I'm going to crack up. So Heidi, I know her as Heidi Sequoia Moon Dancer, and I'm looking right now at your bio, Heidi. I'm like, I don't even know how to pronounce your last name, so help me out. How do I say your name?
It's Beaubriand.
Beaubriand. That's
yes.
Very professional.
Moon Dancer's easier.
Right? Heidi Sequoia Moon Dancer. Okay, Beaubriand. So Heidi, she has been working with women and children victims and survivors of trauma for more than 20 years. She's an artist, a teacher, and a healer. She does painting workshops and retreats in her studio, Moon Dancer Studio and Creative Sanctuary, and in her online community using the intentional creativity method. And she also serves as the online community leader and global program coordinator for the International Creativity Foundation, which I am a part of.
Yay!
So amazing. But today we have Heidi here with us. So welcome, Heidi.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I know. We were comparing our cups today, or she was. So show us your crazy lady cup.
Crazy cat lady.
Yes.
Yep, that's me.
I have mermaid today.
Oh, she's beautiful.
Isn't she pretty?
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, so Heidi and I, we were talking about like what we could create for you, and like what would be powerful around the conversation of what we're doing during the retreat, what would be different. And, you know, Heidi has lots of experience with intentional creativity. She's been part of the foundation. She's part of the, you know, well, you already heard her title. She's important. So
I do some stuff.
She does some stuff.
Does some stuff.
But part of what intentional creativity is it's not just creating to create. There's like an intention behind it. So when she and I were talking about what her personal conversation has been lately, like it really touched me. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is exactly what our ladies need to hear. And so we were talking about the conversation of
not enoughness. Oh.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one. It's a topic that comes up in every workshop I do, every retreat I do, anytime you gather women in a circle, it comes up. This time of year is full of not enoughness. I just feel like it's a conversation we need to have because it's not even a real thing. It doesn't even really exist. It's just this idea that we have in our head, and we carry around this imaginary measuring stick that we beat ourselves with, and nobody can even tell me what enoughness we're talking about. What is it that we're not enough of, and who gauges that? And when you get to enough, then what happens? And it's just this whole crazy default setting that we all have now. And I just think it's time to stop beating ourselves up and really kind of dive into what this myth of not enoughness even is.
Yes, sister.
Do it.
We're going in.
We're going in.
Going in. So with not enoughness, I know for me, it really showed up for me. Like, it's showed up my whole life. But when I became a mom, oh man, that one was like, that bugger was right in my face about how I wasn't a good enough mom, that I wasn't like, didn't have the right shoes, that I needed to make sure that I was baby sign languaging with my kid. Was he going to be scared? Hey, you know, it's ridiculous, right? It's funny now. Like, I was like, oh, he's not going to be, you know, what if I'm doing something wrong? You know, so motherhood really put that in my face for me. However, it shows up all over the place. It shows up in my relationships. When you're talking about even the holidays, it's like, well, they got their Christmas tree decorated and it's like pine and it smells good, and mine's a plastic one. I mean, it's so funny, but I do think about these things. I'm like, oh, should my kids have a real Christmas tree? It's so funny. But these things run through my head, you know, the not enoughness as far as being an artist and how I am with that, or as being a teacher or running a business, that all that shows up for me too. And so I know that, you know, same with you, Heidi. It's like I've been in many circles and this conversation comes up all the time because that's what's running many times underneath the surface. So let's bust it out. Let's do some creativity, and so do it like kind of in a fun way. So we're not so serious. And but that we can actually move some of that energy and things from a different perspective, so that when we can when we come into 2018, we come into this next year, it's like we're not like whoosh, 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 like coming at it from a different perspective. So I'm excited to shift some stuff today. So,
well, I thought we'd first talk about where this message even comes from, that we aren't enough and that we're not worthy. And I think, you know, I think it comes from the time we're little tiny. I think we internalize things, opinions, stories, things that we experience, and we take on those stories as if they're ours, as if the meaning of that story is that I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or, you know, if I do this or I don't do this, I'll be a better person and my mom will love me more. If I'm perfect, if I do everything perfectly, then my dad will love me more. Those, I think, are those very early messages that we get. And we certainly are inundated in the media every day about not enoughness. There are entire industries counting on us not feeling like we're worthy or that we're less than, so that we'll buy their products. And I think we also accepted some wrong messaging. We have learned over time, especially I think as a young woman, that we have to earn our lovability and our worthiness, and that's really troubling to me. But I think that's where those messages came from, and I think probably all of us can think of some really specific either words that were spoken to us or situations that happened to us where we took on that I'm not good enough, rather than the story being that person did a terrible thing to me, and that's their story. Instead, we took it on as that wouldn't have happened to me if I had been better. That wouldn't have happened to me if I had done this or I had done that. That's where I think that comes from, and it just becomes this ingrained part of who we are. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. It's really interesting when you're talking, because Heidi, I remember thinking at one point when I bring my kids a lot with you, I don't know why. When my eldest was, I don't know, like 4 or 5, and he was like having something was going on. I just remember being like annoyed with him. And then I had this moment where I remembered being a kid and feeling like my mom didn't love me because I wasn't acting the way they wanted me to. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. Like the whole like loving him just as where he's at, exactly how he is. I was like, oh my gosh, I could feel that I actually was annoyed with him, and there was like a withholding of love that was happening. And I could see how that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to okie that, as we say in Hawaiian, or I just need to just be aware that I'm not moving that along, that place of enoughness, you know, that I'm cultivating. Because you're right, it's in our marketing, it's in TV, it's on the computer, it's on ads, it's on, I mean, social media is huge, right? That whole not enoughness, because we say everyone's like perfect selfie picture after they've taken 5 of them, right? I was joking around with someone, I'm like, post selfie pictures of your chin hairs, like just be real. Right? Just keeping it real. But when we're seeing the perfect side of other people or like everything that's going right, then there's like this, oh, the measuring thing happens too. Yeah.
Which is another one of those, it's a complete myth. The whole comparison thing, when we compare ourselves to somebody else on social media, especially on social media, oh my gosh, we're comparing everything we have buried in our closet to this beautiful screenshot of somebody who's got their own stuff in their closet. They're just not sharing it. So it's not even an even comparison. It is the worst thing. I was just looking at a was a picture. I don't even know what it's called. I'm not a social media expert, but it was a filter for pictures that you, before you even put it on the screen, you could filter all of these things out and make your teeth whiter and your cheeks fuller. I'm like, oh my gosh, this isn't even a real person anymore. It was shocking. So I don't have that capability. I don't do good kissy face pictures. I don't know how to do any of that.
It's so funny, that piece that you're talking about with the filters, because like it's amazing. Like I used to be a graphic designer in my previous life. Like I can make 70-year-old women look like they're 20. Like
you got some skills.
I got some mad skills here. Yeah. So it's the funny about that piece of even image, comparing to image, what's coming through. So
yeah.
And I know that a lot of intentional creativity, the foundation, is about like accessing your own images,
right.
Women as we are, not something else. So I love, we're already diving in. Yeah.
My Facebook pictures are of my kitty under the Christmas tree. That's about the skill level I have. So you know what happens when we start looking outside of ourselves for our worth and our enoughness is we start doing a few things. And one of them is that we start negotiating who we are so that we can fit in and be loved. We start giving away little pieces of ourselves until we're deemed enough. And what that means is that we're actually betraying ourselves. And that always feels just tragic to me. That's, if I can't depend on myself to be loved by myself, then that's really the ultimate act of betrayal. And we start hustle for worthiness. I've been hustling my whole life for worthiness. Perfection is what the hustle is. And perfection is actually, that idea of perfection is what separates us from each other. I don't find connection in the filtered selfies. I find connection in somebody saying, oh my gosh, I felt like that too. I feel like that. That happened to me. So we really, in this hustle for our perfectionism, we lose our connections to each other, and it just perpetuates this chronic not enoughness. I got to do more. I got to hustle. So we're going to squash that today. I hope we start to. I feel like it's kind of a lifelong process once you get what it's about. And the suffering that comes from not enoughness means that it comes from the meaning that we assign to things that were said to us or that happened to us, that we equate with our worthiness. It also comes from believing our inner critic, our sweet inner critic, who is, spoiler alert, she doesn't tell the truth. I love her and I'm kind and compassionate with her, and I recognize that she's just afraid and trying to keep me small and safe, but she's a liar a lot of the time. She's a liar. She started to show up before we started this. I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. And she let me know that I had nothing to say that anyone wanted to hear. And I had to say, hang on, girlie, hang on. So the other part of the suffering comes from not having a clear understanding of what self-worth is. I don't remember any teacher, I don't remember my parents or my girlfriends saying, do you understand what self-worth means? Here's a lesson for you. Did anyone ever teach that to you? Probably now that we're older, someone is talking about it. No?
I'm trying to think. I mean, I've heard of it, but I don't remember it in school. And I think that there was like kind of a catchphrase. There was like a period of time where it got popular of like, oh, we got to like build your self-worth, right? There was like a whole movement around that. But I don't remember being in school. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you all the secret of self-worth. But first, I want us to do a little exercise. No. Yes. We're all sitting on the edge of our chair. What's the secret of self-worth? No, we have to build the drama. So we're going to do a little exercise. Yeah.
So in your journal, I did mine with some little hearts. I want you to draw a line, and at one end of the line is a 0, and the other is 100.
Can you put it up to the camera a little bit closer for us? Oh, great. Thank you. 1 to 100.
Very complex drawing.
Yes. Beautiful, though. I'm loving it.
So the 0, at the 0 end, this represents someone who is unworthy of love, joy, belonging, and all of their heart's desires. And at the other end, the 100% represents someone who is completely worthy of love, joy, belonging, and all of your heart's desires. And I want you to just do kind of a quick life review, just take a minute or so, and then put a mark somewhere on this line where you think you fall. So 0 is not worthy at all of love, joy, belonging, and 100% is completely worthy of those things.
This is a good one, right?
You know it's a trick.
I know it's a trick. I'm like, oh.
Okay. So do you have your mark?
Yeah.
Okay. So if what I've learned is that if women haven't done any work around self-worth, that most of them place themselves right about in the middle. Like 50%, but I'm 50% worthy. Where'd you do?
Mine's close to 100%, but
Yay!
not entirely. Right? So it's like I know it, and even in my head, I'm like, I should be 100, but I'm like,
what is that about? Why didn't you give yourself 100?
Because I still inside, there's a part of me that doesn't think I am.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, I could, even though there's this, I'm like, I am worthy. I'm 100% worthy of all of that. There's this other conversation that's saying, are you sure? Right? These things pop up. And so there was something about that. I just want to be real straight about like what's really going on inside when I did that.
So here's the secret to self-worth. And it's the thing that grown-ups forgot to tell us when we were kids. And it's that you're born enough. You're born worthy, and that never changes. You receive your worthiness crown the second you arrive on this planet. It's placed on your head. Your worthiness doesn't move or waver on the 0 to 100 scale. It's always 100. It always has been, always will be. Your worth has nothing to do with your capabilities, your mistakes, your relationships, your successes or your failures. It doesn't have a single thing to do with what you've done to others, what has been done to you. Your self-worth never changes. Have you ever heard that before? That's kind of a revelation. It was a revelation to me when I heard it. Now, self-worth is different than self-esteem, because your self-esteem is based on the things that you do and that are and your successes and your failures and those kind of things. But your self-worth, your inherent value as a human being never changes. That's a big deal. So what that means then is that to be enough, all you have to do is claim your self-worth. That's it. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to earn it. You just have to reclaim it. You knew it when you got here. You knew you were worthy when you got here. You knew you were enough when you were born. There's a quote by, I don't know if it's James Baldwin or Maya Angelou. I've seen it credited to both of them. And it says, your crown is already bought and paid for. All you have to do is put it on your head. Put it on your head. So I think that's awesome if we would just do it.
This is so good, Heidi. It's like that place of like looking at like where like worth and what we have been doing, that whole thing about betraying yourself if you're, you know,
Right.
thing, or hustling, like trying to be perfect, like be good enough,
Yep.
that critical voice. And that really it's looking at just claiming what's already yours.
Yes.
Like,
and recognizing fully, stepping into that fully, that it's not dependent on whether your to-do list gets done. You don't get extra enoughness points if you get everything on your list done, and you don't get points taken away if you don't get anything done. So I thought we would...
That's like a revelation, right?
It really is.
Really sit with that. Be like, it doesn't matter what you say to people. It doesn't matter what you've done to people. It doesn't matter what you're doing right now to yourself, to your job, your whether you know your purpose, whether you, all of that, like all of that worth, that's just such an awesome, I love that, Heidi.
Well, and here's one of the things that happens when we go through life believing that we're unworthy of love or that we're not enough. We're going to look around for evidence to support that, and we'll find it every time. So we're really just feeding ourselves this false evidence that we're not worthy. I was going to say something else with that. Lost it. It was big.
But
it was
don't
really
worry,
big.
you haven't lost any worth because you don't.
No, I did not get any worth points taken away. Anyway, what I wanted to do, because what I'm going to do next after we do this little project and building more drama, is talk to you about some things you can do to reclaim your worth. But I thought it might be fun for us to take a few minutes and create our crown in our journal. Just draw our crown and maybe create an affirmation to go with that, a reclamation affirmation. And I did one earlier today. I don't know if you can see that.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's not fancy. I just use markers and I think some colored pencils. So let's just take a minute or two and draw our crown. Mindset, my affirmation is, I am worthy of love, joy, and belonging, and everything my heart desires and always will be.
There's so many options for jewels.
I know.
Decking my crown with jewels.
I left my glitter pens down at my studio. They would have been awesome. And I even have some sticky rhinestones that I could bejewel and bedazzle if I wanted to.
Oh my gosh. I was
I
just
know.
something, I forget that it had, oh, it was The Voice. Do you ever watch that show?
Yes.
Yeah, so that one of the ladies, she had fringe that was bedazzled. That had rhinestones all over the fringe. I was like, oh.
That's awesome. Go girl. That's awesome.
Right? Yes. Oh, this is fun.
I was trying to decide which of my smash pick journals to work in today, and I have it's like an ottoman that's storage, and I must have 10 or 12 of them in there. And I was pulling out all of my old Women Unleashed journals. I love them so much. The first one I ever did, I didn't know that you were supposed to glue pages together and scrunch them. So every single page has something on it. It weighs about 5 pounds. And it's like one of my most treasured things, though. I love going back to those and reading notes, and they're just so yummy. They all still smell good too. I always put lavender and patchouli in my art journals, and so when I take the lid off of that ottoman, it always smells so yummy.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
They're awesome to go back through, when you're having a tough day. They're just treasures for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. I'm coming.
Just get your crown started. You can always come back to it later and make it beautiful and bedazzly and sparkly.
I have mine.
Cool. Obviously I'm an artist. So I'm a big visual person. I love to take these kind of affirmations and I make flags out of them like this. I'll show you. I'll do a whole bunch and make prayer flags out of them and hang them up. I have a set hanging in my room right now. So if you haven't, if this is, you want to do some more work around this, there's more than one affirmation you can create for sure. And I just like them to be visual so I can see them outside of my journal. Okay, let's move on. things that you can do to reclaim your worth.
So I just want to let people know you can continue on. You can also pause this if you want to pause it, or you can continue as Heidi is sharing along to keep you going, okay? So yes, things to reclaim our worth.
Reclaiming our worth. Are you going to show us your crown first?
Oh, yeah. I'm not.
You're not done?
But it's cool. Here's my crown.
Oh, yay! Come as you are. I love that. Yay!
Yeah, it reminded me of that song. There's that song from, I think it might be Nirvana or some like rock band. Come as you are, as you were, as you want something to be, something like that. So, yes.
You go, girl. Woo!
That's my.
Okay, so here are some things you can do to reclaim your worth. And the very first thing is to change that default setting. Just call it out every time you hear it. No more I'm not enough thoughts. You are enough, you do enough, you have enough, you're worthy of love, you're worthy of anything your heart desires, period. End of story. Challenge that inner critic when those thoughts come up. Usually there's something underneath it, underneath that default setting. I know for me, it's always fear. When she shows up and starts that you're not enough, you can't do this, it's because she's afraid or I'm afraid. And it just takes a second to get myself back in alignment. You can do this, you're fine. And I always try to send my sweet inner critic packing with some compassion, because she's really just trying to help. The other thing is release perfectionism. It doesn't exist and you will kill yourself trying to get there. You know, perfectionism also keeps us from being present in the moment, which is really what it's all about, is to be present and enjoy our family and love our family and our friends and our kitties and all of that. And we can't be present in the moment if we're worried about whether or not we're getting it perfectly done. The next thing is to change the meaning of the stories that support unworthiness. You're an adult now. Go back and look at what happened with a grown-up's eyes from a place of absolute worthiness and give the story proper meaning. If someone did something bad to you, the story is about them, not you. Don't take on that story. And release the stories that don't belong to you and don't speak them again. I have a really big story around something that my dad did to me that I learned about after he passed. And it was a really big thing that really shook my worthiness to the core. And I'm not telling you details because I've chosen never to speak that story again. The worthiness piece was not relevant. I am worthy. I always was worthy. It's a story about something unkind that he did. So I'm not going to carry that story anymore, and I'm certainly not going to give energy to it. So think about those stories that keep you in that place of unworthiness and not enoughness. Is it even your story? Create solid boundaries. When we are worthy, we don't put up with any crap. Know who you are, know what you value, what you will and won't have in your life, and what is and isn't negotiable for you. Solid boundaries. The next thing is practice exquisite self-care. Now, I'm not even sure that everybody understands what self-care is. It's not a bubble bath, although it could be. Self-care for me is asking for what you want, knowing what you need physically, emotionally, spiritually, and creatively, and making sure you get those things. This is a really big one too. Stop apologizing for being on the planet. The only time we should be apologizing to anyone is when we cause them harm. Not when we ask a question, not when we take up space that's ours, and not when we speak up. Stop apologizing. That's a big one. Practicing self-forgiveness and self-compassion when you don't get it right. Because you know what? You're a human. You're not going to get it right every time. You're still enough. And then the very last thing is to wear your worthiness goggles every day. If you continually look for evidence that you're worthy, loved, and enough, you will find it. I promise. And these are my worthiness goggles right here.
Go, girl.
They need to be bedazzled. I think I'm going to put some rhinestones on them.
You should.
Yeah, they're mine.
I think they look great, Heidi. I think you totally bedazzled. Rock the worthiness glasses.
I don't get many opportunities to wear these, so when I do, I rock them.
Yes.
So that's what I have to say about worthiness.
I love what you have to say about worthiness and being enough. Really interesting. The whole thing first about the default. That it's like even noticing like my worthiness meter, like it's gone up. Like from work, you talked about that. You're like, if you haven't done any work, you kind of end up in the middle, right?
Yeah.
But it's like by reminding myself, changing my stories, like stop being perfectionist, like those things that you have moved by default, right? So that's part of it. Perfectionism. Here's my little conversation ditty about perfectionism. Is like when I decided I really want to make an impact in the world, like I had to get over that. Big time. Because, that kept me small. That kept me from making a difference for people because I cared more, honestly, I cared more about myself and what people thought about than about making a difference.
Yeah.
Just keeping straight up, right? And so like, I was like, oh shoot, I shot the video and the lighting's a little bit off. I should reshoot it, right? Instead of just get the information out to people that need it now, right? So think about that with your artwork or, you know, if you are, I don't know, singing or whatever you're doing, it's like that, if we can let go of that perfectionist thing and just keep it real, which you mentioned earlier, that's what people connect to people don't connect to perfectionism, that's where connection happens. That's where change happens. That's amazing. And if we can just keep holding each other to that too, like not expecting perfectionism from each other. Like, it's okay if like we have chin hairs or if things are falling, you know, out or your lighting's not 100% or whatever, a cat jumps up or we're recording.
Right.
So there's that honoring of that perfectionism, you know?
Yeah. And I think when we let go of perfectionism in those kind of situations, I know in my workshops, that it becomes just a richer, deeper experience for everybody. The things you thought that you missed the boat on, they don't even notice. You can get away with a lot of things if you just let go of the imperfection and it's like, I messed it up.
You mean you don't tell people that you messed it up? Like, don't do that, right?
Right.
I totally did that. Like at the very beginning, I was like, oh, wait, I was supposed to, like, I used to teach a NIA class. I teach NIA. And when I first started, I was like, I had the routine memorized, exactly the steps, exactly the right beat, exactly the right movement. They'd be like, oh no, that was supposed to be a left. And they're like, what? I'm like, you know, I'm like, why am I telling them what I'm doing wrong? Don't do that, you know? That place. And then, I mean, you mentioned a lot here that I thought was powerful, the changing the stories. You and I, we know the power of shifting story. That's deep, deep, powerful work. But the boundaries and stop apologizing, like stop is so good to just take up space and be okay. Taking up space, be okay. Going to the back, like sitting down first, or like you know those.
Well, when you have your worthiness goggles on and you come from that place where you're absolutely worthy and entitled to be in this space, then you don't even worry about, oh, I'm sorry, can I just ask a question? Or that's just completely off the table because you know that you're worthy enough to be here. So the apologizing thing is something that makes me crazy. So probably one of the last things I would say is for us to hold each other accountable. If I will not participate in a conversation where someone is saying anything that implies another woman is not enough, or I won't entertain a conversation with a woman who's talking about how not enough she is. I will call it out every time. I think we've got to stick together because we have too many things coming at us telling us things that aren't true about ourselves. So it's important for us to stick together and hold hands.
Yeah.
All of our worthiness selves holding hands. That's right.
Keep
I'm going to take these off now because I can't really see.
You can take them off, Heidi. So funny. Yeah, I think that point is really powerful. That one about the stepping up, because there are a couple things. Even the apologizing, like when I'm around someone who's apologizing, where I can feel that, there's like they're just gonna get walked right over, right? Like right and left. If they're not taking up space, other people are just gonna like take it right up for them. So I love that piece of like standing for the sister and being like, girl, like, come on, you don't need to apologize for that, or you are worthy. Yes, you do deserve a massage or a bath, or, I mean, I know that when I was a young mom of kids, there must be young moms listening. I don't even know. You're out here. That's why I keep bringing this is, even feeling like, oh, I have to do the dishes and the laundry, when the kids were sleeping, like that little window of time. And it felt like radical choice for me to be like, no, I'm actually going to write and I'm going to paint during that time.
Yeah.
And I'm not contributing to my household income. I'm not contributing to all that stuff, but I feel like I am worthy of that time and energy for myself. And so wherever you're at the spectrum, ladies, like let Heidi and I stand for you right now to be like, you are worthy of this. You're worthy.
That's right.
Wow! Yes. Okay, so ladies, we want to see in the Facebook group. So come over to the Facebook group, share your crowns.
Yay!
You can share your crowns. You can take a selfie with your crown if you want.
I love that. I love that.
Selfie with your crown. You can also just share like what ahas came up for you through this session, the enoughness conversation, and just being around like what is enough? What do you have to do to be enough? And let's just start that right now as far as being enough now. Yeah, like claiming it.
Yep.
And then Heidi, I know you have something special for our ladies.
I do. I have a gift for them, and it's an ebook on my website called Awaken to Your Muse. And it's just full of lots of fun inquiries and prompts to just get your creative juices flowing. So that's for them.
Fantabulous. So ladies, I want you to think about, we just did something simple here and we played around the energy of enoughness. Heidi, I know that your work isn't just about creativity, but you also are intentional creativity. So your work is like her ebook, whatever she's having you do, there's going to be some juicy stuff in there too. Besides creating, there's some deep diving.
Yep. Always inquiry, always questions, always being in a state of inquiry with a creative prompt that goes with it. So there's lots of those in there.
Awesome. So you can find that right here below, ladies. Right below here. And go ahead and click on over and dive into the creative practice. Thank you so much, Heidi. This has been beautiful. And I cannot wait to see, ladies, what you post from this conversation.
Yay!
All right, everybody. So we will see you during our next session. Sending much, much, much aloha. Bye now.